stories to set your day on the right vibe. From news and current events to lifestyle and entertainment, you are covered. Showing from 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on VOP TV. VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
Good morning. It's Thursday and it's also the 17th day in the month of October 2024. Welcome you to VOP this morning on Voice of the People Television. We have quite interesting lineups for you this morning. As the House of Representatives have urged the federal government to reverse petrol and gas price hike. Would that be possible? I don't know. And would that bring back the fuel subsidy? People are still thinking about that. I am Fina. Okay, Chuku, you're welcome to today's show.
We're talking about the possibility of reversal of pump price. I think there's something in that regard already because marketers have been able to conclude arrangements with NNPCL. NNPCL has agreed to sell to marketers at about 995 naira a litre. And if that pulls through like we expect it to, then there's a possibility that marketers might be selling for 1,000 naira, which is still a lot better than 1,030 naira, 1,050 naira. It's still high, but it's still okay. Oh well, I'm Moses Humphrey, welcoming you on board. Another issue that got me worried yesterday was the issue of the tanker explosion that happened in Jigawa State, where those that went to scoop fuel were burnt. Death toll has risen to over 100. It's troubling. I don't know if I should hinge this on the premise of poverty or ignorance, but whatever the case may be, whatever you want to hinge it on, I think the National Orientation Agency should do something in educating people even better, letting them know that, look, you don't just scoop fuel when a tanker overturns and then spills fuel on the road. It could explode. You don't bust pipelines to steal fuel. You could be burnt. All right, these things, people need to be, in the know. I think advertorials should be created for these things.
All right, Moses, it's up to Nigerians to learn their lessons because this is not the first time it is happening. Oh, well, good morning and welcome to VOP This Morning Show. I am Chukwuma Okoro. Away from the tanker explosion and whatever that is going on, the World Bank's latest report has placed Nigeria's currency, the naira, as the worst performing in sub-Saharan Africa. Oh well, looks like the Nigerian economy has become a play toy for Western financial institutions. You will recall that in April this year, Goldman Sachs, highly regarded financial services agency based out of New York, United States, described Nigeria's naira as the best performing currency in the world, even when the Central Bank of Nigeria was grappling with managing the fluctuations in the currency. 6 months down the line, we have the World Bank again say that, look, naira is the worst performing currency in sub-Saharan Africa, placing it at par with the Ethiopian birr and South Sudanese pound. Now the question will be, what happened down the line just within 6 months? Oh well, stay with us as we unpack these contradictions in the course of the show.
It's also important to note that just 2 days ago, less than 72 hours or thereabout, the World Bank said that we need to give the presidential or the president's policy 15 years for it to yield more fruit. Anyway, these are the major topic of discussion for today. But we also have other interesting trending stories. But before we proceed, kindly click on the subscription button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. On YouTube, we are Voice of the People TV. And on all our social media platforms, we are VOP TV Live.
When you talked about it being a plaything, you know what came to mind? Yo-yo. I don't know if you know that. It bounces. Yeah. So the naira is bouncing, going back and forth.
It's only the naira, the Nigerian economy.
The Nigerian economy.
Everything.
Unfortunately.
And the same World Bank says that we need 100 years to get out of extreme poverty.
Extreme poverty, yeah.
Well, we've analyzed how some officials come up with statistics. Sometimes they don't even get into, they don't go to the marketplaces. They don't go to the community to carry out proper investigation before they come up with analysis. Sometimes they're just fed information And based on the information they are fed in their hotel rooms, they come up with, something.
Data,
and they put it out there.
statistics.
And they put it out there.
Do we really need the Western body to tell us what is happening in this country?
No, we don't. No, we don't, actually. Oh, well, let's look at some of the trending stories, all right, yesterday. Now, Senate spokesperson, Senator Yemi Adaramodu, has dismissed rumors of an impending impeachment of Senate President Godswill Akpabio, calling them unacceptable and unspeakable. This statement came after speculation spread on social media platforms, suggesting that operatives of the Department of State Services, DSS, had taken over the National Assembly to thwart an alleged impeachment plot. While the Senator Akpabio also labeled the rumors as fake news, asserting that there are no plans for a change in leadership within the Senate. He emphasized that the Senate is functioning effectively under his leadership, and there is no basis for speculation regarding an impeachment. While the presidency also, weighed in, dismissing claims of a plot to unseat the Senate leadership as baseless. A special advisor to the president on Senate matters, Senator Bashir Lado, reiterated President Bola Tinubu's commitment to fostering a cooperative relationship between the legislature and the executive. So, sometimes they say when there's smoke without fire, there's something, there's a way it's been said.
There's no smoke without
There's
fire.
no smoke without fire.
Yeah.
Moses, I was on radio 6 o'clock yesterday, evening news, to do the analysis with Esther Nwachukwu. And when Esther raised this issue, exactly what you said, and I said, look, there's no smoke without fire, Akpabio should watch it. This is the second time this kind of thing is coming out.
Absolutely.
But I think he is secure in the light of the fact that the president is outside the country, the vice president is outside the country, and the Senate president is in charge.
For now, nothing can be done.
For now, he is in charge, and so that's why you had to see the DSS condone, the National Assembly yesterday during plenary. If they are dismissing it, and I said, so why did you have to militarize the National Assembly? I'm sure Akpabio will be sweating wherever he is now. Because, you see, politicians have a way of rolling out scripts in a playbook. That was what Obasanjo did. And he had 5 Senate presidents.
Are you saying that because he's in charge, he cannot be impeached? I mean, if that were to be the case.
At this moment.
Yes.
At this moment.
He cannot.
It's very difficult to do.
Because the president is not.
Because he is in charge.
He's the one in charge.
He's
not because the president is
not just in charge of the National Assembly, he's in charge of the country.
nation, yeah.
Now, so politicians have a way of playing out scripts. Like I said, Obasanjo
I'm sorry, I'm still going to go back to this, him being in charge. Is he really in charge? Because the president did not even transmit power to him. The president did not write to the Senate.
Moses,
so can we say
the fact of the matter is that
the president is working from the abroad?
The fact of the matter is that the president and his vice, both of them are outside the territory of this country.
No, the thing is, the presidency
is outside this territory.
Yes.
We are on national TV.
But
there are certain things I cannot say.
The president did not transmit power.
But they named Akpabio, the presidency named president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, secretary to the state government of the federation, that's George Akume, and the ministers as those in charge of the country's leadership in the absence of both the president and the vice president.
Let me ask you, would Babangida and Ebitu Ukiwe have both traveled outside Nigeria?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely no. Absolutely no. So Akpabio should watch it. And you see, when Obasanjo, I keep going back to Obasanjo, and I keep talking about playbook, for politicians. They have a way of, maybe the game is up for Akpabio. If you ask me, the game is up. If the National Assembly doesn't impeach him, Nigerians are of the opinion that he should get out of that seat. Ask me why. Because he's been very unpresidential in his comments, in his attitude, in his comportment, in his composure. He is very careless the way he talks and all of that. I'm surprised that hashtag Akpabio must go is not trending
now.
Why
are you saying he's careless?
Why I'm saying this?
I want to hold brief for him now.
Okay, Moses, this is a Senate president, number 3, that said, Well, if people want to protest, just go on and protest.
But he said that when the president was around, and when the vice president was around too.
We'll continue eating. Now, the same president of the Senate said,
largely misconstrued.
No, Moses, Moses, you're a communicator now. You're a communicator. Don't defend what is indefensible. The same Senate president came out to say, oh, Nigerians, any place you see free food, just
that's what.
Now, the Senate president said,
I'm sorry.
Let Nigerians breathe. Are we breathing?
I will have to interrupt you at this point.
Are we breathing?
That statement was taken out of context.
Moses, how many Nigerians will you educate about the misconceptualization of that statement?
If we could, I would have loved to see the video where he made the statement. Whatever we say, Nigerians are not just about Akpabio, but the National Assembly. Nigerians are dissatisfied with the deliverables. You know what is the deliveries of the National Assembly. If it weren't for Akpabio, we wouldn't know that certain things are sent to mail boxes. All right.
Like prayers?
We should clap hands.
Okay. So with all this, that shows the
Akpabio, you know how much Akpabio got for his constituency?
How much?
As constituency projects. How much?
Tell me.
In excess of when Aline Dume was busy, you know, showing braggadocio that some people got 500, I got 1 billion naira. We realized that Godswill Akpabio got 2.5 billion naira.
Yeah.
Constituency
project. For what? To buy fridges and generators for women in his constituency.
Yeah, he made mention of that.
Instead of pressing it down on the federal government to ensure that there is steady power supply in the country.
So are you now saying that the Senate is not functioning effectively? Because Akpabio says the Senate is functioning effectively and there's no need for any,
Nigerians don't need a Chukwuma Okoro to say that. They know that the Senate is not functioning.
I like the man.
Well, you are at liberty to like him.
I like the man.
Also on our radar this morning, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has announced plans to implement a minimum wage of 85,000 naira for workers. He made this disclosure during an interview, highlighting that the decision was reached after discussion with labor unions in the state. Sanwo-Olu emphasized that the new wage aligns with the state's capacity and affordability without comparing it to other states' wages. This development comes as the federal government recently approved the minimum wage of 17,000 naira for workers nationwide. You know, when Nigerian government is saying, no, we can pay 70,000, and other state governors are saying, I don't think we can be able to pay that. You know, someone even sacked the SSG over the fact that they made a statement about the 70,000 minimum wage here in Lagos, where we're broadcasting from. The governor of the state, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, says that 85,000 is what workers will be going home with. Chukuma, what do you make of that?
You know, yesterday when Sanwo-Olu rolled out the red line, you know, I gave him a thumb up.
Yeah.
You know, so today I'm giving him thumbs up.
All right.
You know. I think our federalism is coming to life. We are beginning to tweak it, you know, to life, to the extent that we have a national minimum wage rate, and we have a Lagos State governor come out to say, oh well, the national threshold is 70,000 naira, and we are going to pay 85,000 naira. But he also said that he's not competing with anyone. It's a matter of affordability.
Exactly.
You know, and we also have some states say we can pay 72,000. Some are saying we can pay 75,000 naira. But some are clearly agreeing, can we pay this 70,000 naira? And they are still tinkering with it.
They're setting up a committee.
Yeah, setting up. Even the federal government had to set up a committee, you know, for the effective implementation of the minimum wage rate. Now, the point of it is this. We are putting the minimum wage on the spotlight, and the earlier we began to recalibrate our federal structure to the extent that before you make a national rate a threshold, you should be able to pull in all the federating units to ensure that you carry everybody along. It is very clear now that not all the states, based on their resources how they have managed those resources, are unable to pay 70,000 naira. And they are going to run into problems with their labor unions and all of that at the state level. But it is difficult for Nigerians to understand why a governor cannot pay 70,000 naira minimum wage. When that same governor dips hand in the state coffers and takes 1 billion naira as security votes. So these are the contradictions that we need to keep tracking, you know, keep tinkering with them until no federalism, no government is perfect. But I always believe that Nigeria is a work in progress. And if we put our all hands on deck, I think we can get it right.
Yesterday when this news broke, someone said something, and the person said, I think it's high time in Nigeria will go back to resource control, whereby a state, will make use of whatever thing that come out of the state to make sure that the life of the people in the state are being taken care of. Unlike when you generate all the revenue, you send it to the federal government, and they will now do the FAC allocation. And they said that is making some states that have enough or even more mineral resources buried in the states now to, seat put, allow illegal miners mine their own,
Of course. But then, well, it's thumbs up to the governor. It's a good move. Civil servants. I'm going to focus on that. They are civil servants. Civil servants in Lagos will get to enjoy 85,000 naira increment to their salary. But I wouldn't have expected less from Lagos State, because Lagos State is one of the highest, IGR states. One of the states with the highest IGR in Nigeria. In fact, it is the state with the highest IGR. And Lagos is I did a bit of digging. In 2023, Lagos earned about 400 billion naira IGR. 400 billion naira. In 2022. Now, in 2023, they came up with 651.15 billion naira. That's 651.15 billion naira. And then they are targeting 1.25 trillion naira in 2024. And we see how levies and taxes are being spread around. Now, unfortunately, it's not just the civil servants now that pay these things. The businessman, and Lagos is a business hub, all right? With the ports and everything, business people are having to pay from their nose. Business people are having to pay. Now, all the agencies of government take money from the people one way or another, all right? Especially those that are involved with vehicle registration. I know it goes beyond the state now. It gets into the federal and all of that. But I wouldn't have expected less from Lagos State, seeing that they generate this much money. Now, it's then up to the governor to say, okay, I want to give back or not to give back. But it's a good thing that he's giving this back. But let's not forget, it's just civil servants. Yes. This will also have a negative impact on residents of Lagos, especially when they know that government is paying this amount of money.
Moses, a quick one. You see, talking about how much they generate, the average Lagosian will ask, how has this generation impacted on our lives in terms of development of infrastructure, roads, rail line, waterways, and all of that? Because I think there are still parts of Lagos that don't have good roads. Yeah. Some schools are still dilapidated,
yes,
even in the heartland of Lagos. So that's the question Nigerians.
Drainage system then, in the high brows of Lekki
and all those places.
Ikoyi and Lekki is I mean,
and so a quick one, Fina, about the issue you raised about resource control and all of that. Yeah. There's a Bible story. I don't have the time to go through all of that. But the issue is that to whom much is given,
much is
expected. And to whom much is a little is given. Little is it? What do you expect? Is it from little or from much? From the biblical perspective,
to whom little is given, much is expected.
Much is expected.
To whom much is given, much is expected.
Now, if you have governors generate IGR and blow those money and fritter them, what guarantee do you have that if they have resource control, that they will not do this?
I think that will actually make them to sit up and know what they have to do, because the money will not come. Lagos will keep their own internal generated revenue, and other people will also keep theirs. Nigeria will keep theirs, and then those that claim they don't have money because of the fact that they don't have mineral resources in their country or in their state will be able to think like there's no box.
All right, without wasting time, let's just get into the papers very, very quickly. Let's look at a few dailies, touching on the headlines from the dailies. I have the New Telegraph in front of me. From the New Telegraph this morning, the banner headline here reads, Hardship, reverse fuel, cooking gas price hike. Now, reps tell federal government. Subriders suggest temporary price relief measures. We are aware there is food crisis. FG working to end it soon. Minister. Labour, FG keep mum over crucial meeting on fuel price hike. Others. All right. And some of the headlines here, we have no vacuum in leadership with Tinubu Shatima out of country presidency as VP jets to Sweden for bilateral engagements. Reps tackle Tinubu over delay in submitting 2025 budget. Summon Marwa as parents of boy killed by NDLEA operatives demand 2 billion naira. All right. Customs seized 10,000 arms, 114,929 ammunition in 20 major shipments. Iwanyanwu wished Kanu would be released before his death. Ex-prelate Asawolu, Anyonko, others pay tribute to the late Ohaneze president. All right. Okay. And then Cardoso, IMTO's funds remittances grossed $600 million last month. FDIS, JP Morgan tips Nigeria on attracting investment. Chikuma, FDI coming in. All right then. So going further down, we have some of the headlines here. Okay, yes. Some of the headlines here. FAN to eliminate complex checking procedures at airports. Lagos State government approves 85,000 naira for civil servants as Ubariwari orders immediate minimum wage payment. Senate dismisses impeachment rumor against leadership. Traditional rulers critical to national stability. All right. I wonder when federal government will start paying, because what they paid was the 40,000 naira they paid wasn't minimum wage. Okay. AFCON qualifier fiasco. It's a lie. We didn't apologize to Libya. FG clarifies. CAF gives Libya ultimatum to reply to allegations as body meets next week. 105 burnt to death, 50 injured in Jigawa tanker explosion. Tinubu dispatches high-level delegation to scene to sanction those responsible for safety breach. Keep off tankers involved in accidents. Keep off tankers involved in accidents. Others, Lekwebiri, begs Nigerians. And then, that's the bottom strip there. Standing. Standing more might increase circulation issues. Oh yes, this is health related. You're told to stand more often. Don't sit for too long. If you sit for like 30 minutes, stand up. So I'm going to be standing up while Chukuma reads his Alfina reads some of the headlines from the dailies.
All right, on the cover page of the News Direct, Nigerian News Direct this morning, the bold headline reads, Jigawa tanker explosion, 140 victims laid to rest, 90 in hospital. FG orders investigation, demand review of fuel transportation safety protocols. And the window headlines are, Ondo Guba, Ayedatiwa declares end to era of house salaries, gets a Noji endorsement. The story is on page 7 of the Nigerian News Direct. Ongoing tax reforms will improve government savings, reduce multiplicity of taxes. Adedeji, FIRS chair. NDLEA commissions Marine headquarters donated by UK government to strengthen drug war. And 5,512 individuals benefit from Lagos Skill Empowerment Scheme. Nigeria records highest rate of ammunition smuggling in 5 years. And that is coming from custom boards. Economic hardship. Lagos will pay 85,000 naira minimum wage to civil servants. And that is from the governor of the state, Sanwo-Olu. And those are the headlines that made it to the cover page of the Nigerian News Direct.
Now let's touch on the Nigerian Tribune with the banner headline, Jigawa Petrol tanker explosion, over 100 dead, more than 50 in hospital. Tinubu says negligent individuals will be held accountable. Akume leaves federal government delegation to Majia town. That story is on page 16 of the Tribune. I have the window headlines. Federal government meets NLC, TUC over fuel price hike. That story is on page 5 of the Tribune. And it's all fake news. Akpabio debunks impeachment rumor. Others probe. Rumor unacceptable, Adara Modu, that's the Senate spokesperson. Reps want reversal of cost of petrol, cooking gas. That story is on page 4 of the Tribune. There's a pictorial there. It's the Ekiti State Governor, Biodu Oyebanji, flanked by his deputy and the Speaker of the House of Assembly when he went to the House of Assembly to deliver the State of the State address, marking his second anniversary in office. And beside that, you have Ekiti Assembly endorses Oyebanji for second term. That story is on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune. Olisa Abakoba writes, NAS says EFCC is unconstitutionally established. I'll take that again for emphasis. Abakoba writes, National Assembly says EFCC is unconstitutionally established. That story is on page 4. Food prices may go higher in 2025 if, that's farmers warning. And that's all from the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, then. Well, that's pretty much all we can take right now. Join us again at 9 o'clock, where we'll go a little deeper into the headlines. Now, let's get you into the conversation proper. House of Reps urges federal government to reverse petrol gas price hike. Details when we come back from this break.
Good morning. It's the start of a beautiful day. Or start your day right with a healthy dose of news, fun, and inspiration. Join us on VOP this morning for the latest news, trending topics, and uplifting stories to set your day on the right vibe. From news and current events to lifestyle and entertainment, you are covered. Showing from 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on VOP TV. VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
Thank you so much for staying with us. It's still VOP this morning. The House of Representatives has called on the federal government to reverse the recent hike in petrol and cooking gas prices, citing the worsening economic hardship in the country. Petrol prices have surged to 1,013 naira per litre, driving up transportation costs nationwide. This resolution followed a motion by Minority Leader Kingsley Chinda and 100 others, urging immediate government intervention to ease the financial burden on Nigerians. The rising cost of fuel, driven by the removal of subsidies and naira depreciation, is pushing more families into financial hardship. Meanwhile, the federal government and organized labor have yet to review the outcome of their recent meeting focused on fuel price hike, minimum wage adjustment, and CNG vehicles. The Minister of Power has noted that complaints about rising petrol prices have drastically reduced due to improved electricity supply, highlighting how better electricity supply has reduced the public's need to rely on petrol for generators. President Bola Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the Nigerian Economic Summit, defended the administration's reform aimed at diversifying the economy. But however, the Youth Rights Campaign has condemned these reforms, citing their negative impact on Nigerian citizens and their living standards. In another development, the presidency, in a statement signed by Bayo Ononuga, Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, has assured the nation of stable leadership in the absence of both the President and Vice President, with Senate President Godswill Akpabio and other key ministers overseeing the country's affairs. Reports gathered that President Tinubu left the country on October 3rd and is on a 2-week working vacation, while the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, departed the country on Wednesday for Sweden on an official visit working for Nigeria. We have with us on the studio this morning to help make sense of this topic, Mr. Dele Fanimo, a journalist and a social and political critic. And also joining us virtually is Mr. Isiaka Badimosi, a public affairs analyst and SDG advocate, who will join us in a little while. Good morning, Mr. Dele. Good to have you.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here.
Good morning.
Right. You're welcome to today's show. We have the president is not around, the vice president is not around, and one want to ask, who is now ruling the country, Nigeria?
Well, it's not the first time that it will happen. It has even happened during this administration, where the president will be away and simultaneously the vice president will be away, and it's just a short shuttle, and so it doesn't really require transmitting power.
You mean leaving the country? President left the country since 3rd of October. He didn't even officially.
2-week vacation.
He didn't officially hand over to the vice president. We're looking at that, and now the vice president also left for Sweden, without making a proper statement on who should be at the helm of affairs. Mr. Dele.
It was wrong for the president to have left the country without formally, through the National Assembly, handing over to the vice president, having told us that he's on vacation. Well, naturally, at that level, you get to a point in management that you don't go on vacation strictly to rest, but to just change location for you to clear your head and then think of the next move. So obviously, the president wouldn't have gone to UK to sleep. He would also be working on some other things. And what he would have done, which is the standard procedure, was to have commuted power to the vice president for the 2-week holiday. And but for the vice president, in the absence of the president, if there are urgent state issues that require diplomatic shuttle, he is in the best position to attend to such engagement in the absence of the president. And he will not say because the president is not around, because there are some critical issues that will be discussed at that level that requires somebody of his stature and office. So obviously, the error there, to the best of my understanding, is not commuting power to the vice president when the president left the shores of the country.
Mr. Fanimo, talking about error and matters of urgent state importance, how urgent is the trip to Sweden to go and discuss bilateral relations between Nigeria and Sweden? And you have the president in Europe, you have his vice in Europe. How urgent can that matter be in the pursuit for foreign direct investment in the midst of the economic hardship? They've been traveling all around the country. 1 year, 18 months down the line, we don't have anything to show for that. Is there a possibility that a Joe Biden and a Kamala Harris will both at the same time leave the shores of the United States of America? Is there a possibility that it could happen, or has it happened before?
Well, I've not really done my research to confirm that the president of America and the vice president would leave the country at the same time. But that is not to say. You see, when you talk about bilateral relations, it takes a lot of things, you know. In the course of that visit, he's likely to meet core investors in Sweden who might be having discussions with the vice president on the possibility and the conducive environment that is present in Nigeria for investment.
Are we having any conducive environment in Nigeria now? You are in Nigeria now as an analyst, looking at the happenings in the country, the security issues we're having in this country, also the naira depreciation. I hope you know that naira now trends for 1,700 naira to $1 in Nigeria, and our inflation also have risen to 32.79%. And then we look at all those indices. You really think Nigeria is that conducive for foreign direct investment for investors?
The spiral fall of the naira is an incentive for investment in Nigeria.
Okay.
You understand? So any investor, if you're talking about this incentive in Nigeria today on investment, it's insecurity. Other than that, that the inflation is high is an incentive for foreign investors. You understand? But the only disincentive we have now is internal insecurity. And the investor would have to weigh his options, depending on areas where he wants to site his businesses. Of course, he would have done his due diligence before bringing in his money to the country. For instance, look at the South Koreans that are coming to site refineries in Nigeria. Of course, they won't go to Sambisa to go and site refineries. The elementary economics we studied in the secondary school, which is one of the reasons for citing industry, is nearness to market, and then nearness to raw material, you know, all those things. So for me, yeah, the country may have its challenges, but that does not preclude it from having investment from abroad.
So, sorry, Dele Fanimo, it's difficult for me to understand how high inflationary rate could be an incentive for foreign investors. While other countries are working to push down their inflationary rates, you know, and give their people soaring income that gives them purchasing power, you are saying that our own high inflation is an incentive for investors. How can you help the average Nigerian make sense of, understand that economic variable?
Thank you very much. You see, when you have high inflation in the country and somebody is bringing up his money, these investors are not going to approach Nigerian banks for facility. Okay. They are bringing their money wholesale into the country. And don't forget, they may not be targeting Nigerian market per se. You know, of course, some of those things, Nigeria has over 200 million population, which is an incentive for a foreign investor. But most of these people, they are only here for our raw materials, mainly for our raw materials. They are not targeting Nigerian market as much as you think.
So, for instance, are they coming to invest in manufacturing or what, or are they coming to buy raw materials? These are two different things: a trader and an investor. You know, because if you talk about,
they will cite their industry here.
Have you seen any happen in the past 18 months? Any new industry that came in?
I've not tracked any.
Many are leaving.
Yes, some are leaving. You see, those people, I mean, those companies that are leaving are more in the oil sector. And you know why? Yes.
GlaxoSmithKline is the only in the oil sector.
No, GlaxoSmithKline is only divesting. They still have a stake
in Nigeria. Okay,
Microsoft they only divesting. They won't have majority shares
okay.
in the company anymore. And the company that is also of taking these diluted shares are also foreign countries, not Nigerians.
Okay.
You understand? So they are calculating their arithmetic to ensure that they are also reinvesting what they are taking out of Nigeria, which is being borne by another company that is foreign. You understand?
So that leaves Nigeria with nothing. If you're true, that leaves Nigeria with nothing basically, because you said now they are divesting and they are also giving they're taking out the majority of their shares and they're leaving the will that remain in the hands of another foreign.
Yes,
entity.
that's what is happening.
So that shows Nigeria benefits nothing.
You benefit from labor.
They don't benefit anything.
I said they benefit from labor.
Remember how many, I hope you know how many people have been sent out, or rather how many people have been retrenched. Workers have been retrenched due to the fact that the policy of the government is not that, favorable.
See, I'm not in support of these harsh policies of government. The question you asked is what I'm responding to.
Okay.
So it's not related. It's not related to it's not related to what is going on in the country that has endangered the worker.
Okay.
You understand? The worker today, because of low purchasing power, has been put on danger list because companies, as a result of policies, for instance, the hike in fuel price, the multiple taxation has rendered the real sector of the economy almost comatose.
Isn't that a red flag for foreign direct investors now, which the vice president went to Sweden to roll back to Nigeria?
You see, let me tell you the dynamics. Listen and understand what I'm trying to say. You see, somebody who is coming to assemble this tablet in Nigeria, he only needs some components of raw materials in Nigeria, along with those he is importing. All he wants to do is to assemble and probably take it back to another market, leaving little or nothing. When the Americans and European investors went to China and the East, what they were looking for was cheap labor. Because labor movement in America, Europe had overpriced itself to the extent that labor was taking close to 40% of investment in that place. And at that time, labor was ready to accommodate. It was because Africa had problems, insecurity problems, that they had to go to Far East, which is about 10 hours to their country, instead of coming to Africa, which is about 6 hours to Europe. So they went after cheap labor at that time. And cheap labor they got.
Did we have skilled labor? Was it only a problem of insecurity? What about skilled labor? Did we have in Africa?
In Africa?
Yeah.
Yes, as at the time,
as at that time,
US and Europe,
we didn't have. So you can now see that it's not just coming to invest to sell your product that is the overarching reason for some of these investors to come. For instance, with the level of depreciation of our naira, if somebody is offering you 100,000 naira as your wage, an investor that is coming to Nigeria, when you translate it to dollar, how much you get? Just about $70 a month, which is just about 3 hours labor pay in where it's coming from. All right. So you can see why some of them would rather come now than, because already they have strengthened the Far East, China, Japan, and the rest of them, to the extent that labor is no longer cheap. So they're now looking back to Africa that they neglected earlier.
Before we go into the FDI conversation, let's come back to the crux of the matter, which is the absence of both president and vice president in the country. We do understand what the Constitution says. It's, they, according to the Nigerian Constitution, both of them can be away, all right? They can be away as long as they are able to, they are in good health and can administer from wherever they are, all right? We had a situation when Buhari and Osinbajo were in power. At some point, I think Buhari had to attend the UN General Assembly, and Osinbajo also had to be out of the country around that time. And, there was really no cause for alarm.
Osinbajo went to attend the funeral of Queen Elizabeth.
The Queen, yeah, exactly. And, there wasn't cause for alarm because, it was expedient that they be out of the country at that time. But I don't recall any Nigerian undergoing or any disaster in the country at that time. I don't recall if there was any. But right now, we have a situation whereby over 100 people have died. All right, and flood is ravaging. The president declined going for the UNGA because he said he needed to attend to pressing needs at home. And at that time, there was a flooding. Flood had ravaged some parts of the country. People had lost lives, and Nigeria, I commended that action. All right, some Nigerians also commended the action. That yes, it's a good thing that the number one man is on ground to see to the fact that people are properly taken care of, to see to the fact that his policies are being carried out to the letter. But there's been another disaster. A tanker, fell, and then people went to scoop it, which of course is a fallout of poverty in the land. And these people were burned to death. 105, according to the papers, 50 in hospital. But we do know that even when the papers give you a figure, it's usually much more than that. And the vice president, who's been holding sway for the president, jets out of the country. All right? Is he going out today or he left yesterday?
He left already for Sweden.
On the same day. Leaves the country. The same day there was that disaster. Now, right after that, or right on the heels of that, there were rumors about a possible impeachment of the Senate president. Is there fire on the mountain? Is there something that Nigerians should be worried about? Is there something going on?
Now, let me tell you about the disaster that happened.
Thank you very much.
Disaster, man-made, and gullibility on the part,
does that take away
on the part of those
place
who
of
went
empathy?
to school.
Does that take
We have
away
had,
the place
we
of
have had,
empathy?
listen, we have had cases like that in the past. That tankers will fall and people will go around it to school, and just a spark will ignite fire. You know the JC incident that happened in Edo State, and the one that happened in Ota.
The question I'm asking is, does that remove the place of empathy? We understand that the president has sent a delegation to go and investigate.
You see, what I'm saying is, I am still coming back to the government.
Okay.
But I am telling you, for those who will listen to us here now, that there was no rational thinking for you to go and scoop. Because, number one, you know how flammable this commodity is. And as far as it spreads, is how it will explode. So you are likely to be caught in that web. So it's a matter of greed, not poverty, for those who went to scoop. You understand? Not everybody around that place that are poor will go near that thing, because it's a red signal for anybody that goes in there. So to that extent, while I'm sympathizing with the families of those who died, but those who died caused their death.
But some people also didn't go to scoop this product, and yet the fire got to them. Because from other reports,
I just said something.
There were even a part where some people were in their own home, somewhere in their shops, and yet there will be the fire got to them and they died also.
You see, that's why I said I sympathize with some people, but those who went to scoop, I'm sorry if somebody will tell me that I'm hardened-hearted. Well, I will not want to sympathize with them much. But for those, because once a tanker falls, this is a tanker that is taking 33,000 minimum of fuel, combustible material. And once it falls, it's not going to remain inside that tanker. It will seep out and spread to so many. In fact, a distance of about 1 kilometer is not
Before
safe.
you start to blame the people, even though you haven't answered my question, I think I'm just going to... Is there no law that
will prevent somebody who is determined to scoop fuel with the mindset of having 1,000 per liter, even if he's selling for 500?
That's not my question, actually.
And at the loss of somebody whose tanker fell.
My question is there no law that restricts tanker movement to a certain time of the day?
Which law? Which law?
Is there no law in Nigeria that says, okay,
There is
tankers
no-
should not move?
There is
within
no
a
law
certain
in
time of the day?
Nigeria that says tanker cannot move at any time.
And why
The
do
only
we see
law
tankers
in
around?
Lagos, because of traffic gridlock, I remember then I was in Alausa as a reporter, you know, was that because of gridlock in Apapa, that tanker laden with fuel shouldn't travel in the day, but in the night. So it doesn't affect the whole country. It was made by Lagos State government to restrict movement in Apapa, because almost every day at that time, people were losing up to 6 hours, man hours, being unable to access the road to go to their offices. So that was why they made that law. The other law that some states also made was when timber-laden trucks were falling over cars, that they said they should also be restricted to night travels. So there is no law as to that. Are you telling me that if a trailer is going to Maiduguri from Lagos, it will wait till the night, and then when it is the morning, wherever the morning meets the driver, he parks and wait another 12 hours?
Mr. Fanimo, isn't it high time Nigerian government also look to the direction of, finding a better way, to transport all these highly inflammable products?
Exactly.
It's causing more harm.
Exactly why I quarrel with the fact that federal government has almost abandoned rail to these superhighways. The money deployed into constructing superhighways should have been deployed into rail system, because a train can take as much as between 60 and 80 tankers, So if I have rail system that goes from here and has a stopover in Oka or Calabar, you don't need, in fact, as a matter of fact, apart from these incidents that happened, what about the roads? The roads are caving. Lagos-Ibadan Express Road has almost started caving because of the weight. Times were in this country when you have a way bridge before you go into an express road. But that is not happening today. You now see tankers being built to accommodate 55,000 liters. Whereas the standard then was 33,000 liters. So when they ply that road, especially when they park, the dead weight of that truck affects the road. And if you travel Lagos-Ibadan, less than 2 years of commissioning that road, it has started caving in due to heavy load on that highway. So they should consider rail system. And for those that can do coastal, they should consider coastal. For instance, if we have from here to Warri, from here to Port Harcourt, you don't need to ply the road.
All right.
To take fuel.
I asked a question about, I asked a question about the president and his vice being out of the country, and then the rumor of impeachment on the Senate, on the president of the Senate. You haven't responded.
I've heard that.
No, I'm waiting for you.
It's at the realm of a rumor.
Yes, but then.
But for every rumor, there could be a iota of truth in it. But unfortunately, most of these legislators, especially in the National Assembly, you find at the root of any rumor impeachment is either that what comes from the top does not trickle down to the bottom. It's not in the interest of Nigerians that they are harassing the Senate president.
So
it's
they want the thing to
they want to
the
calculate
National Assembly.
The entire spectrum. The only time they raised eyebrows against the Senate president was when top members of the National Assembly were sharing 500 million naira, and it didn't get to the ordinary members of the floor. And as soon as something happened behind the scene, nobody is talking about it today. So I am not going to encourage or even amplify that rumor that impeachment is coming. If impeachment is coming, who takes over that would be different from Akpabio?
Mr. Fanimo, how do you rate the performance of Godswill Akpabio and the National Assembly under him?
Godswill Akpabio.
That's the 10th Assembly.
Godswill Akpabio, at the risk of being immodest, is a disaster to the National Assembly. And I'll tell you why. This man has not shown or demonstrated enough capacity to lead that assembly.
Why do you say so?
Times without number, he will make unguarded, unfounded statements. You remember when soldiers were killed in Ugeli, and Akpabio, who holds that sensitive position as the third citizen in Nigeria, came up without any investigation, without any reports getting to his table to say that, who did he ascribe it to? That foreign mercenaries were employed to come and kill soldiers in Ugeli. It was such a laughable statement.
Niger Delta youths.
Later on, Niger Delta youths came up to say, we killed them. That was one. Say, as they are protesting, we will be eating. Coming from a Senate president. That's another time. Recently, he made one statement, I can't really remember now, that was so laughable. And if you have somebody at that level and it's that flippant, it gives a terrible image of the brand called National Assembly.
Remember, he's a two-time governor of Akwa Ibom State before becoming the president of the state. So are you not saying that all the sins were not put in or they were not looked at before he assumed the position?
And what was the controversy around him those days when he was the governor of Akwa Ibom for a nation?
With those controversies, he was able to be the president.
Still, you see, once you have that political correctness, no matter the baggage you are carrying, you will get to anywhere in the country. Don't be surprised that Akpabio may tomorrow, if Tinubu says he's not running the second time, may push himself forward to say, I want to be president of Nigeria. And he may end up becoming president.
So are you not saying that his position is more like a compensation, not just that he wants or he deserves to be there?
What did Oshomole say when we were complaining about him?
I don't know.
Oshomole said, once you get to APC, you are forgiven your sins and go and sin no more.
All right, now, Mr. Fanim, I want to ask you this one, because we are voice of the people and it's our duty to give the people more than a voice. And this is about how Nigerians are talking or crying about the policy of this present administration, but so many people have come up to give vote of confidence on the policies of the government. For example, the World Bank said something about how we need to give the policies of the present administration 15 years for it to work effectively. And also, the president and the vice president have also said something about they said all the reforms and the policies of the government is aimed at diversifying the economy and also pushing Nigerians forward, thereby making good all these policies, even when our multinationals that exited the country hinged on such policies to be the reason of their exit.
Then when you're talking about non-oil exports, you're talking about mineral resources that are abundant in Nigeria, that are readily available in Nigeria. You are talking about agriculture. Now, today as we speak, if we cannot feed ourselves, what is there to export? So that puts to rest that policy on non-oil exports. Secondly, our mineral resources, gold, bauxite, uranium, and everything, how much is coming to the purse of the government? Some people organized themselves and used security people around Zamfara, called them bandits, to protect them so that while they are mining, nobody disturbs them. And they are cutting our gold outside the country without recourse to government taking a share of that mining process. And you are telling me non-oil export. Where is the non-oil export that you are exporting? You are not even adding value to the farm produce. Yesterday we were here to discuss that 50% of farm produce perish in the course of keeping them. Tomatoes, if you go to where they produce tomatoes en masse, you will discover that before that that commodity leaves the market, half of it is spoiled.
So are you saying that the policies of this administration
If they're
shouldn't be
if they're talking about non-oil exports, I want to be corrected what they are exporting. Because these are the things that you want to consider as non-oil exports. Except you are exporting Nigerians to Japa and then get money through repatriation of their salaries and income.
All right. I'm sorry, I'll have to take us back to when we're talking about the Senate, the president of the Senate with statements, speeches made, and just to balance things up, because we do understand that as pressmen, we should be able to give people a balanced view of issues. So there's a video, the actual video. Now you also speak to the role of the media in all of this, especially social media, what social media plays. The video where I think the statement you were trying to remember was where the Senate president spoke about if you see food, anywhere you see food,
you eat.
That's the statement you were trying to remember. Okay, now let's look at the context in which that statement was made. And, and this also goes to, ask the question, if the rumored impeachment, is there something else to it? Is there more to it? Is it revenue sharing, or a certain group of people, a certain part of the country displeased with the presence of the president of the Senate and wants to replace him? Let's take a listen to this. This is a wholesome conversation on that topic of anywhere you see food, branch and eat. There's hunger in the land. Let's take a listen to it.
Yes. There will be another dinner for the Senate President and the Deputy Senate President at 7:30 p.m. today. The venue will be at the Chopstick, Mississippi Ministers Hill, Maitama. So this announcement is from distinguished Senator Danduse Mohammed. Apparently, it is not being funded by the government, neither is it being funded by the National Assembly, and it is his initiative. So I urge members that times are difficult, and wherever you see free food, please endeavor to avail yourself. Thank you, distinguished Senator Danduse Mohammed. Yes.
The context in which that statement was made. Just have to put that out there so people get to understand.
No. It's fine by me, but then, you see, there are some level you get to that, except when you are on camera, you don't throw certain banters.
Is this statement wrong?
It's not wrong. That's why.
You're looking at me. Is it wrong?
It is, for me, it's very, very wrong. You know why I say it's very
wrong?
wrong?
He's telling
It's
the
very
senators.
wrong because
He's
no,
speaking to the senators.
the senators are Nigerians. It's very wrong.
speaking to
You
the
are-
senators.
it's
Asking your fellow
very,
senators of the Federal Republic of
to go and
Nigeria,
get free
any
food.
place they see
There's
free
hunger in the
food,
land.
they should go.
Imagine.
That times are high.
There's hunger in the land.
It's generating itself and it's
There's hunger in
deficit.
the
There is
land.
no way anybody can
This is
spin
height
this
of it.
around.
That's the way you want to justify
There's
it.
hunger
height
in
of
the
it.
land.
What?
Senators should eat
Trying to
free
say
food.
that the
Senators go looking for-
they are
So
hungry. and
because there is hunger in the
After all,
land,
their
can you
salaries
tell
are-
your child to go to the dustbin?
If
No,
senators
he
are
didn't
eating
say
free
go to the
food,
dustbin.
how
He
much
said-
more will
That's
the
the level
Nigerians?
is
What do you
telling those
expect
guys
Nigerians to
to
do?
descend. That's the level he's telling his contemporaries. Don't forget that Akpabio is just first among equals. That is the Senate president. It could be some of these unguarded statements that is moving these guys to say, this man is not representing us well. He doesn't know how to comport himself when he's sitting atop a properly constituted meeting on camera. You know, anybody that plays this outside this country will become a laughing stock at that level, Senate president. You know? And for all I care, just like I said, Oshomole has summed it up when he said, go and sin no more once you join APC. Even if you have killed, you have stolen, you are corrupt, once you join APC, your sins are forgiven.
Oh, well, I'm happy that we have this video out there. You know, Nigerians listen to him. So it's up to Nigerians to decide, to make up their minds, to make a judgment on how, you know, to interpret whatever the Senate president said. So away from that, the House of Representatives has called on the NNPCL to reverse the pump price of fuel. You know, in a motion sponsored by the Senate Minority Leader, Kingsley Chinda, and 100 others, they urge the government for immediate intervention to ease the financial burden on Nigerians. Recall also that there was a meeting between the NLC and the TUC, you know, in the office of the Secretary of Government Administration.
It ended on dreadlock.
Okay, it did, because they said nobody wanted to tell us how the meeting ended. Was it on a deadlock?
It ended on a deadlock.
They won't tell us.
Okay. Now, we had the NSA here in that meeting and other members. Dele, do you think that the federal government will listen to the House of Representatives? Have they ever listened to them whenever it comes to reversing the pump price of fuel?
Whoever made that statement.
Or are they just playing to the gallery?
Whoever made that statement is either playing to the gallery or is not well informed. Because that statement is of no effect coming from a member of House of Representatives and talking directly to NNPC.
Why do you say so?
Is the NNPC the one fixing petroleum price? Given the fact that there is deregulation, and given the fact that NNPC has clearly come out to say, I am not going to be sole off-taker from a privately run refinery. So how does NNPC fix the prices for Dangote, for any other refinery? I mean, it's marks of the quality of minds in the National Assembly for a member of the House. That means, you see, National Assembly is not a joke that we see it here. If you are not intellectually sound, if you don't have depth, you are not supposed to be in that hollow chamber.
Mr. Fani, are you now saying that there's a possibility that, you know, some Nigerians actually have this also?
The guy is just playing to the gallery.
Saying that NNPCL is still the one deciding or the one regulating the price of PMS in Nigeria, even with the deregulation statement being made by the president?
The only effect that has on NNPCL is the fact that they are the ones that have enough resources and government backup to some extent to either import or buy from Dangote or wherever. And it is not on that strength, it is not that NNPC is the sole importer of fuel today. And so are you going to tell me that NNPC will tell Ipman by fiat that this is how much you sell your fuel, when NNPC didn't give Ipman money to import or to even buy from Dangote? So where does that reside? I was expecting that the man that made that statement would have implored the federal government to reverse the deregulation, because the deregulation is like a car that the brake has been removed and on a steep, slopey drive. There is nothing that can stop it. Because deregulation's removal would only engender increase in fuel price, and it's not going to stop. It will continue with people rationalizing why they have to increase. It could be marginal, it could be bogus.
All right, quick one, Dele. Do you think that the NLC and the TUC, they are able to pull any stunt to make the federal government go back on this pricing thing?
The IGRO that I know, if he had been able to pull any stunt, before the meeting ended, he would have chatted some journalists that are his friends that this is the outcome. I'm sure nothing came out of that meeting. The compromise federal government wants NNC to reach with them. Ajero didn't agree, and he knows that if they come out to say nothing has been extracted from federal government, it's a disaster to the labor movement.
Do you anticipate any strike in the coming days?
I don't anticipate it.
So Nigerians will just accept the pump price of fuel at that rate?
I have not started accepting it.
All right.
Do you share the opinion that NLC that the NLC is being held by the balls, for lack of a better word, and unable to? It's like a dog that
Bats but cannot bite.
back but cannot bite.
In fact, would I say NSC is backing now or whimpering? You know, or whining? This was not the NSC that I was working closely with.
Now, being a journalist that covered NLC for quite some time, what do you think the problem is? Is it Ghana must go back, exchanging hands? Is that why the NLC cannot bite anymore? Because some Nigerians are of the opinion
an
that
NLC that was
is
sponsored to Dubai by government about 4 years ago. And they were given $3,000 pittance for a government-organized conference, sponsored conference. They bought ticket for NLC hierarchy. They gave them $3,000 night allowance and all that. How would you look at your benefactor in the face?
That was during Buhari's regime.
Yes.
Do you think President Bola Tinubu will do that?
If Buhari could do it with all his mantra of anti-corruption.
Are we then, the heads that we have on NLC, the heads of the NLC then, are they still what we have now?
Ajero was vice president.
So are you saying that NLC is compromised and Nigerians should not look to NLC for salvation?
NLC is fragmented, compromised, and castrated.
So where then should Nigerians go to for salvation? Should Nigerians take laws into their hands?
You see, let me just take you back in time to understand some of these things. There's a deliberate and conscious effort to cripple either opposition, civil society, or labor movement. If you look at those who are holding sway in labor movement at that time, Oshiomhole was just leading. He had people from Marxist leaning, right from the university days, like John Oda, Owe Lakenfa, Ivo Tako, and this man, I think Anohuru. These are people that were schooled in Marxist movement while back in the days when they were in the university. So they took that from the university to the labor movement. That was why, while Oshiomhole was busy leading, they were providing the depth with which Oshiomhole was going to the negotiating table to talk. But you don't have that now. That's today, go to universities. What you get is Amida Axe, Amida Aye, Amida Eye. That's what they do now. Nobody is leaning towards the left or to the right. Nobody is looking at those philosophies that guided and shaped students, that transformed them to be activists. So Ore came from that background. The likes of Keyamo came from that background. You understand? And that was why the civil society were able to coordinate the strikes using the platform of the labor movement. But what do you have now? The forebearers of civil society organizations like Agbakoba, Keyamo, and the rest of them, they transformed to politicians at the latter day. And so anybody you see in activism now is also looking forward to transforming to a politician using the platform of activism. There was no commitment and there will be no commitment. So through that, they have crippled, and finally, the removal of history has also crippled this movement.
I absolutely agree with you on that one. Well, this would be a good place to anchor this conversation. We'll be moving into another conversation very shortly. Nigerian currency, amongst worst performing in Africa, loses value in 48 hours, according to the World Bank latest report. Let's talk about this when we come back from this break.
Yeah. All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us on the morning show. Now, the Nigerian Naira has been identified as one of the worst performing currencies in sub-Saharan Africa in 2024, according to World Bank's latest Africa Pulse report. The Naira, along with the Ethiopian birr and the South Sudanese pound, has experienced a significant decline, losing about 43% of its value by August 2024. This depreciation is attributed to high demand for US dollars in the parallel market, driven by financial institutions, money managers, and non-financial users, coupled with limited dollar inflow and slow foreign exchange disbursements from the Central Bank of Nigeria. As of October 14, 2024, the Naira fell to a new low, trading at 1,700 Naira per dollar in the parallel market. Oh well, despite a surge in crude oil prices above $80 per barrel, the Naira also weakened in the official foreign exchange market, dropping by 106.7 Naira in just 48 hours. FMDQ data showed that it reached 1,659 Naira, 69 kobo per dollar on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Central Bank Governor Yemi Cardoso has assured the public that Nigeria's external reserves remain strong at $39.12 billion, despite the continued fluctuations in the foreign exchange market. We still have in the studio Mr. Dele Fanimo, a seasoned reporter and VOP in-house analyst. We are being joined virtually by Mr. Isiaka Badamosi. Mr. Badamosi, welcome to this morning's show.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, thanks. Now, let's kick into the second topic. Mr. Badamosi, you have heard what the World Bank report said about Nigeria being one of the worst performing currencies in sub-Saharan Africa. Surprisingly, Goldman Sachs in April 2024 rated Nigeria as the best, not one of the best, but the best performing currency in the world. 6 months down the line, look at what World Bank is telling us. Has the Nigerian Naira or the Nigerian economy become a play toy for Western financial institutions? Mr. Badamosi, are you there?
Yes, please, I am. I suppose you can hear me.
Yeah,
yes,
we
I can hear you. I asked a question.
Good. The Naira and the issues that has to do with the Naira are not things that are really far-fetched for me, because we have deliberately, as a people, that's our government, those that are in management of our economy, we have deliberately allowed the foreign, the Bretton Woods institutions to control our economy, to control our idea of managing the economy. And we have sacrificed, they are bringing in things that has to do with the West to a situation where that does not apply, that a country where such does not apply. You have a situation whereby we have devalued our Naira over time, deliberately. And this did not start today. If you go back as far back as in the 70s, you see when the Naira was far stronger than even the pounds and the dollars. And as at that time, one of the things that they told us in the early 80s was that our currency was too strong. We need to devalue so that we can have more investment coming to the economy, so that people can invest in our economy and all of that. And for that reason, we have continuously devalued our Naira. Each and every government that comes into place, this is the same pill that is administered on them. And what do? They go ahead and devalue the Naira, and we continue to devalue our Naira. And as of today, we find ourselves where we are. The question I ask most people is, and some economists will tell you, they said the economy of the country is not doing well. We are not manufacturing, we are not producing, we are not doing this and that. And I ask the question, what is a country like Benin Republic producing? What is Togo producing? What is Senegal producing? And all these other African countries that their currency is doing better or performing far better than the Naira. These are the problems. You see, we must, as a people, be mindful of ourselves first. I want to ask one question, and that is maybe a rhetorical, which I will answer. The question is, why is it that every transaction that we have to do outside this country, or even within the country, has to be in dollar? We want to buy crude oil, we have to import crude oil, it has to be in dollar. We have to transfer with China, we have to be in dollar. we want to transact with every part of the world, it has to be in dollar. This is the problem. If only the government could put its feet down and insist that all transaction in this country is transacted in the Nigerian currency. If only NNPC would transact business with a Dangote in Naira as directed by the president, all of this pressure will be down and our currency will rise, and then we don't go ahead and devaluing our Naira in the expectations that some people will come to invest in our economy, because they will not come. When they see insecurity, they see all sorts of things around, they will not come.
Good.
Until we improve our economy and they see that the economy is doing well, they would come into our economy.
All right. Mr. Badamosi, one should be concerned that when we complain about how Bretton Woods institutions prescribe policies for us and they don't work for us, but we also understand that these institutions were used to build economies in Eastern Europe after the Second World War. Is it that it's an African problem, or is it a Nigerian problem that these prescriptions don't work for us? Or is it that we don't understand economics, or is it a problem of leadership? Where do we lay this problem? On whose footsteps should we lay this problem? Because apparently these institutions are working for other countries or for other continents.
No, you don't. We need to understand what the Bretton Woods is all about. Those institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, and World Trade Organizations, they were established after the Second World War. And they were established with a goal in mind. And the goal for which they were established was to be able to manipulate other economies and subjugate them to the Western economy. That is a fact. Anybody who understands the play of what the Bretton Woods is all about would know that these were the reasons why they were established. There is no way the Bretton Woods would want your economy to do well. I want to cite you a very interesting example. As at maybe 70 years ago, before our independence, most of the food we eat, maybe about 95% of it, we produce in Nigeria, maybe even 100%. We don't import food. As at today, we import most of what we consume in terms of food into this country. So what has happened? What has happened is that we have taken our concentration off the things that are more important, which is feeding ourselves, and focus on what the Bretton Woods feels that we should be doing, which is mechanized agriculture, which is not going to work anyway, because people are more into subsistence farming.
Mr. Badamosi, sorry, Mr. Badamosi, a lot of people will disagree with you, because if you talk about manipulations, after the Second World War, Eastern Europe, part of Western Europe, came down in ruins and tatters. These economies have been rebuilt with the instruments of the Marshall Plan and the Bretton Woods institutions. No, these economies have been rebuilt, doing very well. So why is it that it's only Africa that they are able to manipulate? That is my question. Is it that we don't understand economics, or we allow ourselves to be manipulated?
Good. You see, the question is this. When after the Second World War, the Europe, like you said, was in complete ruin. And America was the only power that was existing then. You had the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was also an ideology that was existing there. But America needed the West and needed the European area to be developed. They needed their economy to be revamped. They didn't need African economy to be revamped. They needed Africa for market. They needed Africa so that they can dump whatever it is they produce from their country and have a market to sell. And that is why they will not encourage our industry to grow. That is why a Dangote refinery will be built, and we continue to have all the kind of problems we are having, which are instigated by the IOC, the International Oil Organizations, and all their cronies all over the place. These are the things. They will want to frustrate everything developmental that you try to do. It is until a government or a people or the administration understand some of this history that they will be able to identify that this is the agenda of these people. They are not interested in Africa developing and growing. They are interested in for you to be a source of raw material, sustainable raw material for their own industry, and to be a market for the end product that they're going to bring to you. So that is the reason why they are set up. If you look at the World Trade Organization, one of the key points of the World Trade Organization is that countries should have a free market. Free in and free out. But most of the European countries talk about, or the Americans, they do not do that. Most of on certain products, take for example agriculture, that is not what they practice. But they will tell you in your country to throw your economy open, to have a free trade and free flow. These are things that we must understand. They are not rocket science, but most of our leaders do not have this sense of history, and they don't understand what
So
is
it's
the
a
agenda.
problem of leadership, squarely.
Is a fundamental problem of leadership. Is a
Thank you.
fundamental problem of lack of understanding of history and what is the source of all of this problem in the first instance, and what is the objective of the West and the Bretton Woods institutions.
You know, Mr. Bademosi, thank you so much for that wonderful explanation. But if you bring it back again to Nigeria, we have not had any government, any president, you know, who is below 50 years. And as a country also, you know, we are like 64 years or so. And then we're talking about history. Now, all the leaders who have before now to this present administration, we, in our own local parlor to say they are old men. So they understand all that have happened before they come up to assume position. Now, I used to saying that we will still pointing to that book written by Walter Rodney on how Europe underdeveloped Africa. Isn't it high time we take responsibility for all our actions?
Well, I agree with you. Yes, we might. It's about time we take responsibility for our actions. Yes, but in taking responsibility, we as Africans, we must understand the fact that the world and its economy and the world outlook, there is a world order, and there is a perspective, there is a profiling of different nations by other nations, really developed nations, and we must understand where we are placed, and we must understand why we need to move. A country like China understood this a long time ago.
I'm happy you made mention of China, because that would have been my next line of question, because China on their own shot their border and everything, and they were able to stand firm up until today. It's happening also in India.
Exactly my point. A country like China, about 70, 80 years ago, was also in tatters, in ruins. But they had a leadership that had a vision, that had an understanding. And that leadership pushed the Chinese economy, pushed the Chinese people to a particular direction, not listening to what you call, because as of today, if you go back in time, you see where the United States continue to criticize China for unfair trade practices, for not opening up its economy, for not doing this, for human rights abuse. This is what they do. These are the instruments they use. These are the things. And we in Africa, we are falling for this, most unfortunately. And until we understand that, we must not listen to these people and look at what is good for us, for our people, for our economy. Until we understand that we start getting our economy right.
Right,
now, China came to us, just let me finish this. China came to us during the Buhari regime and proposed the Naira for Yen transaction. We started it somehow, we had an agreement, but it never flew. It came crashing. Now, China is a big market for us. We do a lot of transaction with China. Why must we always require the dollar to transact with China? Why can't we transact directly with China? And why is this government in place today is not pursuing that course as it were now? These are things that will help our economy. These are things that will solve some of these problems we are talking about.
Okay.
All right, then. All right. Let me take an excerpt from what the governor of the central bank said yesterday at a summit when they were talking about the depreciation of the Naira. He calls it a blessing in disguise, basically. Well, he did say that in terms of persuasion, I'm going to quote him now. In terms of persuasion, what we need now is to ensure that investments are here. Take, for example, now it may seem like a threat in the sense that the exchange rate has come down so low, but that also is an opportunity. Because what that means is that it can help to boost your exports. That's what he's saying. So he's saying with the low exchange rates, Nigerians can start exporting. Does that sound like a realistic statement, knowing that at the moment we really don't even export much at all?
For me, it's the same old story. It's the song we have. These are songs we've heard before. They're singing the same song. This is the same song they sang to us as far back as the early 80s. It's going to help to boost our economy. Investors will come in and they will bring foreign exchange and all of that. 30 years down the line, 40 years down the line, where are we today? We are worse off. Our economy is bad. We can't even feed ourselves. Food insecurity everywhere. So I don't buy the argument of the central bank governor. I don't think the central bank government is being realistic. I think it is time so that most of these people who are in such offices should relate with the grassroots and the people on the street. The question I should be asking the central bank governor is, Why have we not taken as a priority the issue of small and medium scale businesses? Why have we not injected massive funds in the billions into propping up a lot of businesses that are already falling now? Why can't the governor understand that the continuous devaluation of the naira will lead to the continuous rise in the price of the of fuel price? And if the fuel price is rising by the day, at the end of the day, we will continue to have high cost of living. Nigerians will become poorer. So how is this a benefit for us in the first instance? So, I mean, some of the people who hold offices, you start to wonder whether they understand exactly what they are saying, or maybe they are just trying to make us feel good. That's where I see what he's saying. It's a feel-good therapy he's giving us.
All right, then. So let me bring you back to the studio now. Mr. Dede, here we are. One starts to ask the question, did the president, did he select right? Seeing that we have more people with banking background, investment banking, economists, but, more of investment banking, handling the economy. The Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy is an investment,
banker.
Was there something wrong in that selection? Should the president rejig?
Actually, there's nothing wrong in the selection. But I think what the president should have done was to have a mix of the old and the new.
How do you mean?
I would have expected somebody that is between 35 and 40 that also understand the various dynamics of economics that we have today, rather than, because you find out that, I remember when I was going back for my master's in the university, you still see some professors with their old notes when they were doctors coming to class to teach. What that tells you is that most of them are not in tune with current day realities. You understand? And I remember there was an incident when some students came to my office on a guided tour. They were students of mass communication. You imagine they were still being taught PICA and all the rest that had been outdated since 90s. So sometimes you need the new to nudge the old and tell the old that, look, yes, this was fine in the 80s and the 90s, but the current realities will not support this line of thought. You understand? And so, to that extent, maybe when the president is rejigging his cabinet, he should consider that option. True. You understand? So, for me, old ways are the ways of saying when Naira drops, then export will be encouraged. What are we exporting today? Nothing. Almost zero. In fact, what would have even brought foreign exchange, which some countries rely on as we speak, tourism, is almost non-existent in Nigeria. If we have that tourism thing in our brain, they wouldn't have destroyed that landmark resort. Because in some countries, that kind of resort can generate enough revenue to fund that Calabar-Lagos road in time. Gambia, that is very close to us here, Gambia's population is not up to 10 million. The only source of income in Gambia is tourism. In fact, as at the time I went to Gambia, the best hotel in Gambia was built by Mantu, 80-bed hotel that overlooks the beach. You can travel from that point to Senegal within 15 minutes. So you see white people flooding Gambia. In fact, what attracts them most is these marabouts, these people, sorcerers and all that. You see the Oyibos running after them, consulting them and all that. And, so what we are saying is there must be a shift from old ways of thinking economics.
Talking about exports, NBS in their first quarter report this year clearly showed that non-oil export did better than the oil sector. And here you are talking about
well,
that
then
we
they
don't
should have
export.
told us the indices.
So you don't believe the NBS?
I don't believe.
Okay, now I will.
But you believe them when they say that Nigeria has 135 million multi-dimensionally poor people?
I don't even believe that too.
Is it less or more?
It could be more.
Okay.
All right, now I would like to come back to you, Mr. Bademosi. Looking at what Mr. Dele Fanimo just talked about, Nigeria solely revenue generator is oil, and we just heard that the barrel per day of oil now has risen to $80, no longer $72, $74, $75, or $79
And
now.
it still increase.
And it's still increasing, you know, because of the wars happening and all that. And yet, within this period of the increase of the dollar, the sale of the crude oil, we are still facing naira depreciation. We can't even account for how much we have in our excess crude accounts here in Nigeria. What do you really make of this? And where is this country headed with all this, you know, indices?
Well, I think one of the things that we've seen over time and that has worked for us is the fact that each time there is conflict in the world and there is a rise in the cost of crude oil, it gives us more revenue, and I would have expected that much at this time too. But I'm not very optimistic in that direction, because take a look at as far back as the 70s, when we had the Middle East war, the 6 Days War in the Middle East and all of that, which led to the formation of OPEC and all of that. That was when Nigeria made a lot of money during the Gowon regime from crude oil. Now, can we leverage on that as of today? That is a different question altogether. If maybe the government understands why we need to produce more, as of today, what is the quota of petroleum that we churn out into the international market? Out of that quota, how much goes to the IOC? What is the actual that is coming to Nigeria at the end of the day? I ask a further question. Since the days of the 70s, the 60s, these IOC, these international oil companies, have been in charge of our crude oil extraction. The question is it not possible that we have Nigerian indigenous companies to come and extract this oil? Why is it that the IOC have become perpetually the ones that are doing this, and they are cutting away a huge chunk of whatever is supposed to be accruing to us in the name of the agreement we had with them? All of these are questions. Why is it that NNPC cannot do the extraction of this crude oil itself? Is it that they don't have the technology? This is not rocket science. This is 2024. All of this technology are all over the place. So these are questions that would not allow us to be able to identify or even reap the benefit of an increase in the price of crude oil in the international market, because most of it has been dissipated by all of these interests that are feasting on it.
Isn't it scary that all these questions happen to be on the mind of Nigeria, and yet the governor of the central bank is rather looking at the amount of money we have on our foreign reserve? He said that even amidst the naira depreciation and all that, Nigeria still have $39.12 billion in our foreign reserve.
The question is, see, for me, at times when I look at the central bank governor, I want to see him as an expert in his field. But I think the person who I would want to put the buck on this table is the president. The president must have an understanding of a clear-cut direction of what he wants the policies of government to be. He must have a clear-cut direction of what he wants the central bank governors to do. I don't know if that is what the president wants the central bank governor to do. If that is what the president wants, it has not worked for us. It has never worked for us. Go back 30 years down the line, it has never worked. So why are we flogging a dead horse? Why are we trying to impress people and bring them into our economy when we know that they will not come at the end of the day, and the value of our currency will continue to fall, our people will continue to become poorer? Now, China lifted over 500 million people out of poverty within a period of 1 decade. Nigeria has continued to put more people in poverty over the past 1 decade. It has not improved. So these are the things we must do. We must be conscious of and have an understanding of.
Good.
We cannot just continue to do the same thing and expect that we're going to get a different result.
Good. Mr. Badamosi, talking about where the buck stops, despite the grinding poverty and the economic hardship that is very evident, the president said that his economic reform policies have made very positive impacts on the standard of living of Nigerians. Do you agree or disagree with him?
Wow, that is laughable. That is for us all to see. And we all live in this country. 2 years, just about a year and a half ago, we were buying petrol at 200 and something naira. Today is over 1,000 naira. How has that impacted people? The cost of living and the cost of running around today. Most Nigerians, I can say it boldly, that 60% of Nigerians who own cars don't go out with their car on a daily basis anymore. Most of them would start to choose the day they want to go out with their cars.
So don't you think all these things are what the World Bank also saw that made them to say we need to give this present administration and its policy another 15 years for it to materialize into benefit?
Exactly 15 years. And 15 years down, did it take 15 years for other economies to solve their problems? Did it take 15 years for Europe to get their acts right? You see, when you have the World Bank officials coming to Nigeria to come and tell us that, for me, it's like spitting in our face. Does he understand what Nigerians are passing through at this very moment, the way their life is being structured and how they are being inconvenienced and the level of poverty they are going through? Do they have that understanding? So if they don't have that understanding, they shouldn't be coming here to tell us about 15 years. 15 years down the line, how many people have died in the past 1 year out of frustration, out of hunger, out of desperation, out of all sorts of terrible things that has happened to them?
All right.
And you tell such people to wait for another 15 years.
All right, really. Mr. Badamosi, thanks very much. Do we take that as your final thought, or do you have anything to chime in?
Well, let me round up on this note that we must, as a people in this country, and as a government also, have an understanding of where we are positioned in the world, the way we are viewed by the Western world, the Bretton Woods, the way we are viewed, what is their objective when they are dealing with us. We must have that understanding. And we also must design for ourselves, what do we want from them when we are dealing with them? What do we want for our country? It is until we do this, we will continue to be a pawn in their game, and they'll be using us all over the place.
All right, thank you very much, and thanks for being part of this show. Now, let's come back to the studio as we are pressed with time. Mr. Dele Fanimo, do you have any crystal ball with which you can examine whether the economic policies of this government will by any chance make positive impacts in the next few years? I say that in the light of the fact that most economies that have prevailed, and succeeded over time, started by bringing out policies that affected the people, so to say. But in the long run, those people were able to overcome. Do you see, is there anything in this government or in the policies that have churned out that tells you that, look, there is a likelihood that in the next 5-7 years that will come out of the woods?
We'd like for you to respond in about a minute. Please.
Well, I'm not a crystal ball gazer anyway. But
you're an analyst.
So you called me. Okay. But let me tell you sincerely, if something good is going to happen, it will be the miracle of the century, because you have not shown me the process. The Singaporean president at that time took his countrymen on a route that you can see. And that's the difference between a leader and a transformational leader. A leader takes you to where you want to be, but a transformational leader takes you to where you ought to go, but you are refusing to go. Lee Kuan Yew took Singaporeans through the route they didn't want to go, but he was sure-footed, and he attempted and made sure that he shedded the weight that will not make him accelerate his travel. And that was why Singaporeans followed him through, and the rest is history today. But what we have in Nigeria does not support that as we speak. It doesn't support a route that is clear for me to follow.
All right, then. Well, we'll wait to see what will happen if that miracle will be hinged on cost of living coming down or purchasing power going up. We'll wait to see if that will happen. Well, thank you very, very much, Daily Fanimo, seasoned reporter, VOP in-house analyst. Thank you for your time.
Always my pleasure. But tell Fina that I'm a reporter.
She knows. And also, a big thanks to Isiaka Badamosi, who is, he's an SDG advocate. Yes, a public affairs analyst and an SDG advocate. Well, thank you very much for your time as well.
Thank you very much for having me. You have a great day.
Thank you too. Well, that's it on the show. This is where we call it a day. Well, stick around. More to come at 9 o'clock as we'll be going into the papers. On behalf of my colleagues and the backroom staff, I'm Moses Humphrey. We'll see you tomorrow. I beg your pardon, we'll see you later today at 9 o'clock. Bye for now.